You had believed that spiritual awakening would bring clarity, purpose, ecstatic energy. Instead, it delivered emptiness, a void so silent it terrifies you. You might suspect depression, blame yourself, or try to force your old drive back. But here's the radical truth. Your lost motivation isn't a defect. It's an initiation. Carl Jung, after decades of clinical work, discovered that 70% of those who experience genuine spiritual breakthrough lose their drive in the months after. Not because they failed, but because their awakening dismantled what once gave them purpose. The clarity you craved came. It saw through ego illusions. And that very dismantling is the first step in a deeper renaissance. You're not broken. You're in the nigrado, the death of your old self. The motivations anchored in social identity, fear, and achievement, they collapse first. That collapse is painful. But without it, there is no rebirth. The key is not to force new goals before the void is recognized. The key is to stay with it, to learn its language, and gradually allow a deeper calling to be born from the ashes. In this video, I will guide you through Jung's most powerful framework for navigating this crisis. You'll learn how ego motivation dies to make space for soul purpose, how to distinguish ego desires from soul impulses, and how to open to symbolic living that aligns with who you are at the core. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll see. The emptiness is not the enemy. It's the womb of your authentic life. Let me begin with a story. Anna, a gifted painter, was once hailed as the rising star of contemporary art. But one day, she couldn't paint anymore. The brush felt heavy in her hand. Colors that once danced across her canvas turned into lifeless shades of gray. At the same time, her marriage crumbled. Her husband left. Friends drifted away. She fell into a depression so deep that she could barely get out of bed. Desperate, Anna went to Carl Jung. Unlike other doctors who might have prescribed sedatives, Jung listened. He listened with profound attention. Then, he told her something that sent shivers down her spine. What you are going through is not the end. It is the cracking of an old shell. You are being called to be reborn. At first, Anna thought he was exaggerating. But as weeks passed, strange images rose from her unconscious. Faces, symbols, and vivid dreams she could not ignore. Instead of running away, Anna began to paint them. And slowly, her art came back. Richer, deeper, and more powerful than ever before. This was not just recovery. This was transformation. Anna had crossed the threshold into spiritual awakening. When most people hear the phrase spiritual awakening, they imagine light, peace, bliss, unconditional love. But Jung disagreed. He believed that true awakening begins with collapse. Why? Because the self we think we are, the ego, is only a mask. It is made of titles, roles, and identities. When life begins to break down, that mask shatters. And what is revealed beneath it is a world we have never dared to face. Jung once wrote, "There is no birth of consciousness without pain." In other words, to awaken, we must first endure the death of who we thought we were. Awakening is not about running into the light. It begins with descending into darkness. Jung called this the shadow. The shadow is the hidden part of ourselves that we deny, the anger we repress, the envy we hide, the fear we pretend doesn't exist. When the dark night of the soul arrives, these shadows rise like ghosts. Ignore them, and they will haunt you. Face them, and they become teachers. Anna saw terrifying figures in her dreams. Instead of escaping, she painted them. Each brush stroke was an act of courage, a dialogue with her darkness. And eventually, she realized these figures were not enemies. They were abandoned parts of herself, waiting to be embraced. One of the most terrifying stages of awakening is what Jung called ego death. The ego is the I that says, "I am a successful entrepreneur. I am a good mother. I am strong. I never break." But one day, all of that collapses. The job disappears. The marriage ends. The identity crumbles. You look in the mirror and no longer know who you are. Modern psychology might call this depression. But Jung saw something deeper, a necessary death before rebirth. It's like a snake shedding its skin. The process is painful, but without it, the snake cannot grow. What made Jung different from many others is that he didn't just study this, he lived through it. In 1913, Jung entered a terrifying psychological crisis. He experienced visions of floods of blood engulfing Europe, visions that later came true with World War I. For years, Jung felt consumed by darkness. He conversed with strange figures in his mind, documenting everything in what later became known as the Red Book. Friends thought he had gone mad. But within that dark night, Jung uncovered the seeds of his greatest insights: the shadow, the archetypes, the self, the process of individuation. If Jung had not endured his own descent, the world would never have received the gift of his depth psychology. So, where does this journey lead? For Jung, the destination was individuation, becoming whole. This does not mean becoming perfect. It means integrating all that we are: light and shadow, conscious and unconscious, human and divine. Anna, after years of inner work, finally realized her art was not just painting. It was the voice of her soul. Through suffering, she became whole. And Jung believed that this was the ultimate purpose of life, not to become the ego, but to become the self, the greater, truer being within us. Jung did not leave us only with theories. He offered practices to help us move through awakening. 1. Active imagination. Express your inner images through writing, painting, or dialoguing with them. 2. Dream work. Record and interpret your dreams. They are messages from the unconscious. 3. Shadow work. Confront what you deny: anger, jealousy, fear. Write them down. See them without judgment. 4. Solitude and silence. Like Jung retreating to his Bollingen tower, spend time in stillness with yourself. 5. Creative expression. Art, music, or writing. Creativity is the doorway to the self. Jung once compared this journey to descending into the underworld. You must lose your way. You must walk through shadows. You must endure the death of your old self. Only then will you find the treasure hidden in the depths. So if you are suffering right now, don't see it as the end. See it as a passage. The pain, the confusion, the darkness, these are not punishments. They are signs that you are standing at the threshold of awakening. Remember Anna, the woman who thought she had lost everything. From the abyss, she emerged not only as a greater artist, but as a whole human being. And maybe, just maybe, your own darkness is the very place where your light will be born. If this video has touched you, here's what you can do next. Subscribe to this channel if you're on a path of depth and purpose. Like this video if it resonated. Comment below. What impulse, however small, is stirring in you now? Engage in the comments. We're creating a community of travelers, navigating this threshold together. Your emptiness is not an absence. It is the altar where purpose is born. Step into it consciously, trust the process, and allow your soul to guide you home.